Hi, I'm Donna from Avoca, and welcome to the next video in our character creation set. Okay, we're going to continue on with our hair by finishing off the hair tie. So just going into our cylinder, I'm going to grab the edges here, and I'm just going to scale them out a little bit on the Z and the X. Then I'm going to delete the interior of the cylinder on both sides because they will be unnecessary, and then just chamfer the edges here, just a slight chamfer to round off the edge. Yep, there we go. Then selecting the ring on the inside, I'll add an edge, and we seem to be constrained, so make sure that's off, and then just scale it in. Okay, so we don't need to be too detailed because we won't be seeing too much of this section. So I'm just going to cut an edge in here just to give it a little bit of interest, and I'll bring that out. So just making it look like it's a little bit twisty. Okay, so I think we'll just leave our hair tie as is for now, and we'll just apply a turbo smooth to our hair just to see the overall shape. We can see here that there's a vert that isn't welded, so we'll just go in and make sure that's welded correctly. There we go. We can do the same for the ponytail. Yep, that's looking pretty good. So yep. Okay, so I'm just going to do an overall weld just in case I missed something, just with a very small threshold, and we can call that complete. Alright, so to add a little bit more interest to our hair, I'm going to add a few strands. So for the fringe, I'm just going to use the line tool. So a similar method to when we created the belt. This time we'll create the line ourselves. So just using the curve tool, create a line, and then adjusting the vertices to get the curve that we want. So we'll have to do that in the side view as well. So when we create a line in one viewport, it tends to do it as a straight line. So we'll have to go back in and shape it around the head. So just trying to get a nice curve of the fringe as it flicks out and back. We'll make sure it goes away from the face, it's not clipping in. So I'm happy with that. I'll create a box. It's easy to do this on the top view, but you don't have to. And I'll bring it up into position. So I'm going to reduce the length and the height. So bring the height right down, so we want it to be relatively thin. It's going to be like a little wisp of hair. And then we'll push that back into position. So we want to butt one edge of the box up to the curve, so the edge of the face that we're going to extrude should sit at the line. So I'm just rearranging my layers a bit now, so I'm going to put all the lines into the default layer so I can delete them easily enough later, and I can hide everything else. So just butting the face that I plan on extruding out up against the line and making sure it follows the curve of the line. So I'm just undoing that and making sure I do it along the local. So changing my rotation method to local. And same with my move manipulator tool. So just in the drop down list up there, I just select local. Once that's done, I convert it to an editable poly and reset the X form. Select the face, then using my ribbon tool, go to extrude along spline. Select the spline that I want to extrude along, and then just play with how many edges. Okay, that looks good enough. We want it to be reasonably smooth. We don't want to have too many edges in there either. It'll all add to our poly count. Okay, so that looks really good at the moment. Then we can just go in, make sure that the smoothing group's all the same, and then adjust some of the vertices that didn't quite make a nice smooth curve. Making sure it dips back in there into the hairline. Still maintaining the nice curve. Okay, I'm just going to change the mesh color so it matches the hair. And then I'm going to draw another line. So we'll do this a couple of times to create the fringe. I'll just tweak those a little bit more, and then go back to my line and shape that to how I want it. Okay, I've just drawn another one on the other side of the forehead. So we're just doing this to add interest to the hair and to give it a little bit more hair feel, I guess. Add a bit more style to it rather than just the solid mesh. So I'm just going to draw out a few more curves. Bring this one back to so it tucks behind the ear. Just continuing to shape these curves till I get the nice flick feeling that I'm looking for. Since when we extrude it takes all the shape from the curve, so we want to make sure we get it as close to what we want now rather than having to fiddle with it later. Okay, now I'm happy with that. I'll draw another one. This one will go back further into the hair. Okay, so now that I've created a few curves, I'll start to fill them in by extruding the boxes. So again, just like before, I tweak these first. Okay. Okay, so now I'll create the box like I did before and move it into position and prepare it to be so we can extrude the edge along the curve. This time I'm going to change the pivot so it's sitting on the edge that I want to extrude along, so in the middle of the edge, and then that way I can use the snap tool to snap it into position. So, yeah. So I'll snap the vertex, so there we go, and then just using my rotate, I'll rotate it into position along the curve so it follows the line of the curve. Just pull it out a little bit more, and then I'll extrude along the spline. Selecting my curve, and then I'll put I'll check that it is extrude along spline. Normal is selected there. You can get different looks by playing with some of these settings, so just play around to find what you want. I'll put a slight twist in it. So just playing with some of the settings here. Experimenting to see I can get the shape I want. So I put the head back on so I can see how it's looking with the rest of the hair. So I put the twist in so it will fall down towards the forehead a bit, and then I can use soft selection to tweak the shape that I've got. So to make sure that it's got a small selection so I can pull these things out, and then sometimes putting on effect back facing or making sure that is checked on or off will help too, so it won't affect the faces that are on the opposite end of it. So it's just a matter of playing with the settings sometimes to get the look and the movement that you want. So just tweaking into position. So I'm just trying to pull this out a little bit more from the hairline there. Just rotating that a little bit so I can stop the clipping of the edges. I'm just continuing to pull it out. Maybe thickening it up a little bit will help. Okay, I think I've almost got it. And there we go, just tucking that into the hairline. Okay, yep, that looks pretty good. And again, just changing the mesh color. And fixing up the smoothing groups. Okay. Just going to tweak this curve a little bit. Bring it out so it doesn't clip through the strand we just made all that much. So I've almost got this curve the way I want it. So there we go, yep. So we'll create another box again, and just as before, adjust the pivot and make sure it's the width and the height are about the same size as the other ones. Snapping it to the curve and then extruding the polygon along the spline, and playing with the settings until I get something that I like. So just hiding everything so we can see what we're doing. And then rotating it to match the curve. Might make it a little bit thinner, there we go. And then continue to rotate. Okay, hiding everything again, I'll just extrude along the edge, along the spline. Again, just playing with the settings until I have something that looks good. Again, fixing the smoothing groups. Or removing the smoothing groups in this case. And checking what it looks like with the rest of the model. So yeah, that looks okay. And we'll continue to add the strands the same way and adjusting them where needed. Again, using soft selection and making sure that effect back facing is off, I can pull this down and back towards the head, just to bring the shape out a little bit. We'll delete the curves or turn off the curves that I've already done. Just going to add another curve, I think. This one will go back up into the ponytail. And again, adjusting the curves, the vertices of the curves to get the shape that I want. and tucking it back into the hair tie at the back here. So I don't want it resting on the head. Just want it a bit further out. So turn off everything again and create the box to extrude. So making sure I use the same height and width for each box. I'm just going to clone a couple of these boxes now to save us having to create a box every time. Just clone a couple. That way we can use the same box. And lining that up with the curve. Just playing with the settings again. Just going to turn everything off and change the smoothing groups and the mesh color, and then we can extrude the next one as well. And again, playing with the settings. So I was just seeing what it would look like with a bit of a rotate on it this time. And take off. I'll leave that on there, just apply a bit of a twist instead. I'm taking down some of the edges as well. So again, we don't want to have too many edges because again it'll add to our poly count and we'll have to come back in and remove them. Okay, I think we'll leave this video here and we'll continue on in the next video.